Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to chat to you about our river crossing tours this afternoon. You might have seen on the first slide that I showed you that we are going to have two tours this year, during which you will be able to see the river crossing. The one is to the northern Serengeti, and the other one is to Kenya. So to start off with, sorry, I just wanted to admit someone. To start off with, I'd like to explain the concept of the migration to you. And you might have already heard it before, so then I apologize. But I think it's really, really important for people. Sorry, there are more people in the waiting room. Let me just admit them quickly. Right. So it's important that you understand the concept of the migration so that you understand what it is that you're going to be, seeing. So when we talk about the migration, we're not talking about just one particular event. Specifically, we're not just talking about a river crossing. The river crossing is a part of the migration, but the migration is actually a circular pattern where the animals follow food and water, throughout the year. So for instance, February, we'll find the migrating herds, the gnu, the wildebeest, and the zebra in the southern part of the Serengeti. And then by May, we'll find them in the central area, and then they move further north. And by August, they're in the northern part of the Serengeti, which borders the Masai Mara, and this is where we see the river crossing. Now, the river crossing is not for them to go from Kenya to Tanzania or Tanzania to Kenya. It's simply part of this migration to get to food and water. So to see the migration, you can go at various times of the year to the Serengeti. But if you want to specifically see a river crossing, which is a part of the migration, then you need to go to the northern Serengeti or to the Masai Mara on the Kenyan side. And this is where you will then see a river crossing during late July, August, beginning of September. So we've planned our tour specifically for August so that if the rains are a little bit late, we are still covered. And if the rains are early, we're not too late in this process. I hope that makes sense. What I'd like to do now is to just share a slideshow with you, and we can discuss the map so that I can just show you this on a map as well. Give me 2 seconds. Let me do that. Okay, so what I've discussed now, sorry, I think someone is just echoing. Can I ask you all to make sure that you're muted, please? Right. What I was discussing now was how the migration is a circular pattern, how it's a circular route that follows here on here. And if you look at this map that I've got here, if you look at the northern Serengeti and the Masai Mara, that is the area in which the river crossings take place. And we've positioned our accommodation in such a way in the Serengeti that we will also be in the northern part of the Serengeti for you to potentially see a river crossing. Obviously, as with any game viewing activity, that can never be promised, but that is the hope. And we certainly work very hard for our guests to be able to see that. So, yeah, that's just an explanation of the migration as a whole, and then how the river crossings fit into that and where the river crossings take place, because that's very important. It would be, if you are particularly keen on seeing a river crossing, it would be pointless for you to go to the southern Serengeti, for instance, in February, because that's when you'll see the carving. So yeah, it's important for you to understand that when you make a decision about any tour to the Serengeti or the Masai Mara. Right. So as I've mentioned, we have two different offerings. It's the Northern Serengeti, which is a centered safari, and then Kenya and the Great Migration. Now, these two tours have one thing in common, and that is that they will offer you the opportunity to see a river crossing. And for the rest, they are rather different. So let's jump into that and discuss why they're different. Okay. As I said, with both of them, you have there is a potential opportunity to see a river crossing. Okay. What you should probably know about a river, not probably, you should know this about a river crossing, is that it takes patience. You sit next to the river and you wait for one of the gnu or wildebeest to jump into the water and the rest follow. Okay. And if one decides to stop, the rest stop. And the smallest activity or something that gives them a fright can stop them. And out of the blue, they can start this jumping through the river process again. So seeing a river crossing asks you to be patient. You need to sit next to the river in your vehicle. You need to be quiet, and then it happens. Or it doesn't, and maybe it happens a little bit later, or maybe it happens tomorrow. But it is important that you're patient and that you are aware of the fact that it's not just, like an ongoing thing. So let's carry on then. Right. I said that there's only one thing that these two tours have in common, and that's the opportunity to see the river crossing. Let's discuss the differences. The first, let's start with Tanzania. Tanzania, we visit the Ngorongoro crater, and we also visit Tarangire National Park. And then we spend 4 nights in, sorry, this is still the crater. And then we spent 4 nights in the Serengeti, 1 night en route to the north, where we spent 2 nights, and 1 night coming back in the central Serengeti to break the journey, and then we go to the Ngorongoro Crater. So 2 nights Tarangire National Park, and then we go to 1 night in the central Serengeti, 2 nights in the north, and then we go and visit the Ngorongoro Crater again. So what's different in terms of the Masai Mara is that it's a fly in and fly out safari. So we spend 1 night in Nairobi, and then we fly into the Masai Mara, where we spend 4 nights in our camp, and then we fly back to Nairobi to fly home again. So a completely different experience in terms of seeing the countryside or the country. So with Tanzania, you see Tarangire, you see Ngorongoro, and you see the central Serengeti and the northern Serengeti, where you spend 2 nights. With the Masai Mara, you spend 1 night in Nairobi and 4 nights in the Masai Mara, where you will then have various opportunities to see the migration, etc. So different experiences. The other important thing is that if we look at the accommodation of these two tours, that you take note that they're very different. For the Northern Serengeti Safari, we're using tented camps with bucket showers. They're mobile tented camps, so the guides come according to different seasons and set up the camp. Then, so it's a semi-permanent tent that's being set up there for a couple of weeks, and then they move it on to the next spot again. When the Masai Mara, it's a permanent luxury tented camp that we're using. Okay. You can get a glimpse of the inside of the safari vehicle on this one photograph. So the roofs, I always say they have pop-up roofs, so you can stand up and take photographs, and you can see the size of the windows there, so everyone can have a window seat. If you look at this, it's just a quick drawing of what a vehicle would look like. So our tour leader normally sits in the front seat next to the tour guide and then hops from one vehicle to the other to make sure that they spend time with all the guests. There's a fridge, so you can put some beers in there to stay cold, or perhaps some tonic to mix with your gin, or just a Coke, or whatever you fancy. So that's just an idea of the vehicle for you. And again, let's just get back to the accommodation that I mentioned, which is a difference and something you need to consider. If you don't want to have bucket showers, if you want something more luxurious, then I do suggest that you look at the Kenya tour as opposed to the Northern Serengeti tour. While these camps are lovely, this is a photograph of the camp. You can see that it is a pitch tent with a sail, no, floor sail. What is it called? Anyway, I think you get the idea. Where the camps that we use in Kenya are more luxury, they are permanent camps. Okay, so that's quite an important distinction between the two tours. Right. Then in terms of practicality, what to pack, it's better to wear muted colors. And during the day, please do not wear dark colors like black or navy or even a dark purple. These colors attract flies and they are horrid little things. So I would really suggest that during the day, at night it's fine, but during the day, please do not wear dark colors. Yeah, I like wearing linens with cotton. It's fabric that can breathe, and you can layer it quite nicely. It is a colder time of the year, so it is important that for the night, for the evening, you have something warm with you. And during the day, it gets hot, and then at night, it gets cold again. So it's important to wear layers. If you're interested in the Kenya safari, it's also important because it's a fly-in, fly-out one where we fly with the local airline from Wilson Airport into the Masai Mara, that you only take 15 kilograms of luggage with you. So, yeah, it's really important that you pack clever, roll your clothes, fit as much as possible in there. Okay, and for both safaris, it's important that you have duffel bags. So, sorry, yes, it's possible to send a copy of the recording. We'll send it to you. So what I was saying about the duffel bag is you would have noticed on the photo that I showed you of the vehicle that the luggage space is very limited. So your luggage needs to be pliable. We need to be able to squeeze it and fit it in next to someone else's luggage. So no hard Delphi suitcases or Samsonite suitcases. All the shops, K-Way is probably the one that we all know, Cape Union Mart, have duffel bags that are soft-sided. So those are really the best to use during safari. Okay. All right, just someone that I need to admit. Okay. Here we go. Let's look at some practical information. So visas, if you're a South African passport holder, you do not need a visa. For Kenya, you do need an ETA, but that's really easy to get. It's free of charge and it takes about 7 working days at the most to get. So it's just something that we need to do before you depart. For Tanzania, for South African passport holders, no visas are needed. For Kenya, you're going to need a yellow fever certificate. You will not need that for Tanzania. But with the yellow fever, you can simply go to your doctor and also get a letter to say that you are, for instance, over the age of 60 and they do not want you to get it, or that you can get a letter to say that because of health reasons, they do not want you to get it. So getting a yellow fever certificate is not something to be stressed about if you cannot get it for whatever reason. Okay. In terms of fitness level, there's really not a lot of walking involved at all. But it would be good if you are able to walk to your lodge room or your tented camp room by yourself. If you can walk around at the airport, in the airport. If you're not able to do that and you do need assistance, then that's just something you need to tell us ahead of time so that we can arrange a wheelchair with the airline or with the lodge, etc. Okay. People often ask, what does a beer cost? What does a glass of wine cost, etc. So let's say a beer costs about $5. Same Coke, $3 to $5. A glass of wine is about $8. And if you are really keen on your wines, then it's absolutely fine for you to take wine with you from South Africa, buy it in duty free, keep it sealed, and take that along. when my husband and I travel, we normally take a bottle of Amarula or a bottle of gin, and we keep it in the game viewer with us for sunset. So that's absolutely fine, no problem with that. If you're going to take your wine to dinner with you, then expect to pay a corkage fee. Right, and then if we're looking at the cost, the two tours sell at very similar prices. It's the single supplements that are quite different. So, sorry, I did make note of this moment. If we look at the Tanzania tour per person sharing, it's about 88,000 Rand, and the same for the Kenya tour per person sharing. As I said, it's a single supplement that's quite different. For Tanzania, it's $480 if you want the room to yourself, you don't want to stay, or you don't, if you're traveling by yourself, and it's 1,250 for Kenya. So there's a big difference. So just to summarize, between the two tours, both of them will be seeing the river crossing. The one tour will be in a mobile tented camp scenario, where the other one is in a luxury tented camp. The one tour you're on the move a lot, where the other one is a fly-in safari. And it's easier in terms of your movement. So two very different tours selling at similar prices, and I think both of them are absolutely worth it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'd love to have anyone who has some questions to perhaps ask them. If you don't want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to also drop them in the chat. Okay, so I just want to see if there is a chat. So let's see. There we go. Right, I actually have answered that one. Okay. Right. If there are any other questions, please do shout or unmute yourself. Okay. I do want to encourage you, if you're not keen on asking me a question here, that's absolutely fine. Then send an email to the office, or just leave a message and I'll call you back as soon as possible if I'm not available immediately. The consultants are also available to assist you. So, we really are there to help. But if you have a question now, I always find that on these webinars, one person asks a question and then more and more questions kind of pop out. So please don't be shy. You're more than welcome to ask. There's a question. It's a pleasure, Paul. I really hope that it helps. Yeah. Okay, well, Paul's gone, so. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Katita. Yes, it is a malaria area. So you need to speak to your doctor about which medication you should take. There are a couple of options available, and all of them have different side effects, etc. So just chat to your doctor about that, please. Other accommodation options, we can offer you different accommodation options, but then we'd have to tailor make a tour for you. So for our group tour, on those set departure dates, no, there are no other accommodation options. It's just not logistically possible to do that. But if you are not keen on any of the accommodation mentioned, or perhaps you want to do Tanzania but in luxury accommodation, Then we do tailor-make tours for people quite often. We have a number of clients who we do that for. So you can just let us know and we can do that for you. Right. If there are no other questions, what I'm going to do is I will ask the team to make sure that everyone who was here today for the webinar receives the itinerary, just to make sure that you've all got the 2 different itineraries. And they'll also send you a message with a booking discount if you book before the end of April. So we'll be in touch. And then thank you. Thanks for joining, and thank you for everyone's time. As I said, we'll send out the itineraries and they'll send you a message with a booking discount if you make a booking before the end of April. But I'm still around if anyone has a question, and whether it's on the webinar or not, you're more than welcome to send me. I will send the office an email, they'll pass it on to me, or give us a call. I love talking about Tanzania and Kenya. East Africa is a really special place in my heart. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Right. Okay, guys, thank you so much for participating today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see some of you on our tour very soon. Take care.